With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. And this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. Go to emailrevealer.com, get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator. By the way, this version of the book is no longer available on Amazon. And there's only a couple of copies left. Now, you get one of these copies here with this stupid blue cover on it. You get an autographed copy. God only knows that one day that book will turn into a collector's item. But I'm about to reload the book up with a better cover. And we had to correct some state licensing changes that had taken place that I didn't want anybody to get into trouble, so we changed some stuff in the book. And I added a bunch of stuff to it. I added stuff to the bio portion in the beginning. And so it's a better book. The new book that'll be up on Amazon with the better cover will be a better book. So you can get a copy of my book, the exclusive collector's item, at emailrevealer.com. Also, too, let's say you got a spouse that doesn't want to pay their child support. Go to emailrevealer.com. You order my current employment locate, and we can find out where they're where they're working right now, the current place of employment, and we'll help you get a income execution on their income, pay the child support. Okay, check out, we got a brand new GoFundMe /Opperman Report. And this is for video equipment and digital audio recording equipment. See, the idea is to get a nice handheld digital recorder with like a little shotgun mic on it, with a remote control, too, as well. It's a very fancy little recorder. It's about $100. So we can get that, and we go to events and stuff like that. We can record interviews. I can go to the Bundy protests. There's going to be a bunch of those. Not Bundy protests, but the Bundy court hearings and stuff here in Vegas. And I could record that for you and then play it for you on the air. Do special shows, these campaign events. Also, too, trying to get some video. We're really hoping that we could pull this off this week and get this video camera and get up there to see Hank Harrison and tape with him. Especially since I had a whole film crew ready to go as well. We just wouldn't have the funds to do it. And that's it. And the second plan was me and Vic were just going to drive down to Salton Sea, where they got that big mountain, the Big God's Mountain, where that guy gives the tours and stuff. We're going to head out there and do some interviews and stuff and, produce a little segment for you from that. We couldn't do that either. So Vic was all upset this week. She was crying, wasted her whole Easter vacation. What a miserable week this has been. Just a miserable. Now we're going to do a miserable show for you. How's that? I get my revenge. Okay, Saturday afternoon last week on American Freedom Radio, we had a show with Dawn Schiller, who was John Holmes' girlfriend, the porn star. And she was a witness in the 4 on the Floor murders, the Wonderland murders. And what a story. Oh, my God. I got so much response from that story. This poor woman has been through hell and back. And just people are just so impressed by her story. I really recommend that show to anybody. Dawn Schiller, something like a walk through Wonderland or something like that, a journey through Wonderland. Oh, boy. Tomorrow on American Freedom Radio, which is now 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and also rebroadcast on People's Internet Radio tomorrow evening at 1 o'clock your time over there in Ireland. You know what? Who knows? With the clocks, with these clocks, you change these freaking clocks. Who knows what time it is over there? Oh, my God. That's been a pain in my butt, man, because we switched the clocks here like a couple of weeks before you guys switched them over there. But anyway, tomorrow night, roughly 1 a.m. your time, we're going to have Tony Ortega, who's the guy who did all that work on Scientology, Church of Scientology. So we have him tomorrow evening. Looking forward to that. Let's see. April 15th, I got coming up Casey Gain Magala. Once again, he's coming back. I like this guy. And he's going to be talking about the Boston bombing. He's got some first-hand information. He lived in that area, and he knows some of the kids who were witnesses who knew these Sarney brothers and stuff. So he's going to have some first-hand information that, of course, can just easily be dismissed by a YouTube video. So that's what we'll just wait for a YouTube video to come up and tell me I'm full of crap, and he's full of crap. Yeah, I know, Jen. It was tonight they let me go on early because there's a couple of the hosts there weren't available. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I did an interview last week with this guy named Greg Jones, who's he hosts a show called the I Want to Know Show. So you can probably Google all that and find the interview. I really enjoyed it. This guy's a really good interviewer. Totally mainstream media kind of guy. And, we just talked about, like fun stuff in my life, and all the cases I worked on, PI stuff, things I've been involved in. I think we even talked about running with the Bulls, I forget, or that might have been different. I did a bunch of interviews in the past couple of weeks, but this guy's really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to put this show up in the members section, but if you don't want to pay for it, you can go look for it for free, because his show is free, so you can find it on his website or whatever. The guy's name is Greg Jones, and the show is called I Want to Know Show. And, it feels good, to have an interview about, to remind myself of some of the stuff I've done. Because I got to tell you, man, I really feel like I'm hitting my head on a brick wall here. And especially the past week or two, there's just this obstacle of resistance and trolling and rejection that's going on here. It's just so frustrating. It's just becoming so frustrating. It seems like it doesn't matter how much work I put into this stuff, that there's always a complaint and there's always some kind of a derogatory remark. All right, let's move on. Oh, my God. Well, I named the show tonight A Little Bird Told Me, okay? And partly because of the little bird there in the Bernie Sanders rally today. A lot of people were really touched by that. The whole thing was just so... it was a moving little display of humanity, and this big mess. If you haven't seen it, Bernie was holding this rally today in, I think it was Seattle, Washington. No, it was Portland, Oregon. And I got a big audience up in Portland. Everybody loves to show up in there in Portland, Oregon. And so this little bird, it was a big giant arena, and this little bird landed on the stage, and everybody in the crowd went crazy. Hey, Bernie, look at the bird. And they were calling him Bernie Sanders. And so Bernie looked over at the little bird, and the little bird jumped up and landed on the podium right next to Bernie, And it was just adorable, especially when you consider all the craziness going on in the Republican stuff. And but what hasn't been reported about that poor little bird is that, later on in the day, Hillary Clinton got her hands on that bird. She bit his head off. Well, you'll never see that on the mainstream media. Oh, by the way, too, about Bernie Sanders this week, is if you notice, he was the only presidential candidate that did not go to New York City to AIPAC, which is the big Israeli lobby over there in New York, the big PAC. That's, in support of Israel, and they put the pressure on the U.S. government to fund Israel and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, when I had Cynthia McKinney on the show, she was talking about AIPAC. And I said to her, I says, well, how do these lobbyists, how do these big lobbyists, how do they buy off the congressman? How does that work? He says, what do? They take you out to dinner? Do they... they drop an envelope on the floor, Oh, wait, Miss McKinney, you dropped this envelope here. Is that how they do it? And she goes, oh, no. With AIPAC, what they do is they send over a fax. They send a fax to your office, and it says there, if you will sign this agreement here and you agree to support this bill and that bill and this bill and that bill, we will fund your campaign this amount. Okay, and every different congressman has their own amount that's calculated of what they think they're worth. And that's how blatant this is. So if you notice, all the candidates went down there. They ran over to New York City with their hats in their hand, and they groveled at the feet of this big, powerful lobby, this PAC here. And the only one who didn't, Donald Trump sure did. Donald Trump, first time he ever did a prepared speech, and he sat there and he read his hands shaking. He read his teleprompter and didn't want to get one little word wrong because he had to get it right. Oh, I was getting in big trouble. Only one who didn't go there and kiss their ring was Bernie Sanders. Ironically enough, they call Bernie the Zionist, who's the the dual citizen. But everyone else went, but Bernie didn't. And then you hear some of these nuts, they'll tell you, well, the reason Trump went, because Trump's really on our side. And the reason why Trump went is he fooled him. He was tricking him. It was a big act. He was putting on a big act there, fooling those I don't know what you'd call them, power elites. Hey. But 2 weeks before that, before AIPAC, was KPAC, which is a conservative PAC too, that again, all the Republicans went down there with their hands in their hand. Trump didn't go to that one, by the way. But all the other ones did, right? And do you know who else was there? You know who else? Well, TalkStream Live. Okay, remember TalkStream Live? I used to talk, oh yeah, we're number 3 on TalkStream Live. Oh, number 2 on TalkStream Live. Right? Because our ratings, TalkStream Live is like this phony ratings company, right? It's a totally bogus thing. But Michael Savage wins every single 24 hours a day. Michael Savage is always number 1. And then the rest of it is pretty much rigged. And we were doing so good on there, and because I'm not a right-wing nut, we pretty much got kicked off over there just for, because they don't, it has to be 100% right-wing. And where are they? At KPAC, this right-wing conservative group. And who else is there? A lot of these other alternative media types that you think are your friend. I wasn't there. I wasn't invited. I didn't have a little name tag in a booth over there, right? Of course not. But that's the game you got to play in radio, even in right-wing radio, in alternative media radio. See, you got to go kiss the ring of Clear Channel and TalkStream Live and these right-wing nuts, because they're the ones that got the sponsors, and they're the ones. And one of the sponsors I talk about all the time. Guy tells me, well, you got to mention the coming global collapse, right? Now, you notice I can't even say the coming global collapse? It's not easy to say the coming global collapse. Okay? That's not an easy phrase to say. But you hear all these other guys saying it because they got a lot of practice saying it because they're told to say it. So they got to brainwash you into thinking there's some global economic collapse right around the corner so you go buy gold and silver and invest in all these kind of stuff that you hear advertised on all these guys' shows. Let's see. Oh my God. I love my notes. I love my own notes here. I got to tell you, after this stuff, I don't have the balls to say. I write them out during the week, and then the day comes, I can't say it. I can't get myself to do it. You know, I tell you something though. You can, once people have drank the Donald Trump Kool-Aid, you know, there's nothing I could tell them. I'm giving up. Trying to explain the Trump phenomenon. Because these people, they're like victims of a con, man. They love their con. They can't face the fact that they're being a sucker and that they're being taken advantage of, and they get mad at you when you try and tell them. I got clients like this all the time. If you listen to the show that I did with that woman about the romance scams, you know, everybody thought it was a crappy show. In fact, I don't even think it was on I just did it in the afternoon. It was like an impromptu show that we did. It's not in the member section. It's just on Facebook. It's on YouTube and Spreaker and that kind of stuff. I forget her name, but a nice lady. She was a victim of one of these con men. And she also says, she brought up how, it's like these Nigerian scams too. People really think they're going to make money from that. Then they fall for it. Like I said, you tell them they're not going to. They get mad at me. And I tell them over and over. Once I get them on the phone, and I'm telling them, listen, stop sending money. You're being scammed. You're being conned. Stop sending money. You got to call up your bank, close out that bank account, because now they got your check numbers on there. They can print out checks. You got to get a new phone number, shut off that email, stop replying to emails. Okay, Mr. Opperman, you're right. I'll stop. I promise I'll stop. I got a call the next day. Well, I was speaking to him again, and he says that you're the con man, and you're the one. Okay, great. All right. Okay, good. I am. Go away. Leave it alone. You know, people love people, when they're being conned, there's something about it. They fall in love with the con man, just like people are falling in love with Trump. Now, one thing we were talking about this morning about these Nigerian scams and these West African scams is that over there they do a blood ritual and a potion and stuff like that to as part of their ritual to steal these women's minds in these romance scams. And I almost believe that Trump is up to something like that as well, too, because how can people be this stupid? Okay. Well, I mentioned last week on the show about the lawsuit involving the Trump modeling agency. I think it was last week. It's hard to keep track. Well, lo and behold, you didn't hear about that anywhere on the news. It was reported, I think, in one, I think it was ABC or, I want to say ABC or something like that, or Discover, I want to say, I don't know. But I saw it reported in one online news article. Then I talked about it here on the radio. And the case was dismissed this week. Just summarily dismissed, you know. And that's been reported quite a bit, that Trump won this lawsuit. You know, there's like 10 articles on that. Okay? By the way, did I ever mention that Trump's sister is a federal judge? That she worked for the Department of Justice as a prosecutor, and then she became a federal judge? We're going to get into that a little bit in the future. But that could be one reason why Trump has such luck in court. You know? But just Wednesday, just a couple of days ago, what the details is on this this lawsuit, right? Against the Trump modeling agency. I also mentioned too that his wife Melania, or Malenkia, whatever her name is that's how he met her, at this Trump modeling agency. She was working for him as a model, right? So we know he's dating the models, and we also know from this lawsuit that some of these models that he's importing from foreign countries are 14-year-old girls. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, who else do we know that was doing that? Jean-Luc Brunel, the guy with the Jeffrey Epstein case, right? Same MO, that he had this way to get these visas, right? So that's all part of this lawsuit here that was just dismissed on Wednesday. Now, a couple of things I discovered very interesting. Okay. First of all, before I even get to that, we were trying to figure out. There has to be connection. I can't, I'm looking at this. They all know each other. They all got these modeling agencies. They all got these visas. They're all drumming up these little 14-year-old kids, right? Trafficking, right? There has to be a way to connect the Trump modeling agency to Jean-Luc Brunel. Now, I tracked down this guy who's written a couple of books about scandals and stuff like that in the modeling industry. And he also, by the way, too, he writes about Trump, too, as well. He doesn't like Trump either. Guy from New York. He's written 2 books about perversion and scandals and abuse of these young women in the modeling industry. In researching a guest, because I'm trying to find a guest on the modeling industry who can talk about Jean-Luc Brunel and this other guy, Haddad, all these characters surrounding Epstein and surrounding Trump. And what I found is that even when they write a book, they don't want to talk about it after like a year. Somehow someone gets to them somehow, and now they don't want to talk about it anymore, even though they wrote a book about it, or they wrote 2 books about it. That's something else interesting that I'm taking a look into here. But now, what's the connection? How can we make a connection between Trump and Jean-Luc Brunel and his modeling agency, and who was notorious for his abuses? Plus, this guy was visiting Epstein in jail, every week, 50 times. He was in there 55 times, in a year. What's the connection? Well, they both used, this HB1C visa thing, right? Actually, I don't have it in front of me. It's around here someplace. But they had this thing where they could get, H1B visas, right? This is what, and they both had a way to get these little girls' visas to get into the country. And check this out. So I think we can do a Freedom of Information Act, and the Immigration Department there, and find out who's making these applications. Are they similar? That's how I think we can do this. See, I should be working, since no one's paying me to do this, okay, and I seem to be doing all this on spec, that I'm funding this whole freaking thing here like an idiot. I could insert myself into these many lawsuits around these cases here and maybe get paid on this stuff, but then I can't talk about it. Quite the conundrum. Now, what I found interesting here, and looking at some of these court docs, is that there's a line in here that Trump's various companies imported 1,100 foreign workers. Okay? That's all of his companies. He imported 1,100 workers. Now, some of them were these Polish workers that he has work at his Mar-a-Lago and stuff like that. Out of those, all of his businesses, just stop and think. What do we know Trump for? Right? We know he's a construction guy, right? Golf courses, Mar-a-Lago, right? All this kind of stuff that he needs to import workers for these different businesses. So he imports 1,100 workers. Out of those 1,100, 250, almost 25%, are these little girl models. That's quite a focus on what this guy's up to.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
So this girl who filed this lawsuit, this little girl from Jamaica, I think she was like 16, 17 years old. Right? So they go down to a little town there in Jamaica. They sign her up for this modeling agency. And they tell her she's going to be making $75,000 a year. And that's what they told the immigration department too. Right? So what they did was, the girl alleges that she was treated like a slave. Okay? Because what they did first, they took 20% of her fees, right? Which is 15% is okay, but 20%, some agencies do that, okay? But then they also deducted from her wages all these bizarre, obscure fees, like makeup kits. They sent her to a dermatologist at her expense. Walking lessons. Constantly supplied with unnecessary cosmetic kits. And made her take expensive limousines to and from work. Okay? And then they deduct that from all the money she's making. So she worked for them for 3 years. What the hell was that? She worked for them for 3 years. And for those 3 years, she only made $3,800. And the rest was taken out in expenses. They withheld 80% of her earnings, calling it expenses, to this little kid from Jamaica. That's your hero, Donald Trump. Bilking some little 16-year-old kid from Jamaica and treating her like a slave and taking 80% of her little income, leaving her with $3,800 over 3 years. Make America great again. That's what we're going to do. Oh boy, I this is small print. Now this is interesting too, because this modeling agency was founded in 1999. It's only been around 16 years, and he did 250 of these H-1B visas to lure these kids from out of the country. Okay. Now, this was dismissed by the judge, okay? But the wasn't because they didn't have a good case, okay? Because they had a sloppy case, okay? The suit was dismissed without prejudice. The lawyer is going to file a complaint with the Labor Department, okay? And for every violation, it would be a $35,000 violation, okay, against the Trump people there. And what happened was they didn't even calculate how many hours she worked to demonstrate that the $3,800 over 3 years was below minimum wage, which I'm sure it was. But they could not. They didn't do their paperwork very good. So that's pretty much why that got thrown out this week. Now, another thing too. Now, you heard this week that what's his name? Ted Cruz, right? The guy with all the girlfriends, the Canadian. That he was trying to talk about Trump's organized crime ties. Right? By the way, too, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to give you all this information here, right? And I was even going to make up a little song about it, too. I was going to make a little song about this week's Trump thing. But you know what, man? I'm going to give you all this information. We're going to get into it to Scaramix and Paul Castellano and Trump's helicopter pilot, and then a whole story about Trump versus Steve Wynn and what I'm with the private investigators and what I'm with all that. All this stuff here, man. It's all great information. Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, by the way, there's a lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell for defamation. Virginia Roberts is suing Ghislaine Maxwell. So there's going to be a ton of stuff coming out on it because she's going to have to do a deposition very shortly. So those guys are doing good work over there. That's what the whole Epstein case, if you're not familiar. But I'm going to give you all this information. I just spent almost 20 minutes on this Trump modeling agency that no one else is talking about. You know what I mean? You got 1,100 H-1B visas. 250 of them are little girls that he's importing from foreign countries. No one's talking about that, right? I'll tell you. And what am I going to get back in response to this? I'm going to get an email. Not just one email. I'm going to get 25 emails. Ed, the Illuminati wants to kill Trump. Here, watch this YouTube video. because the Trump's serpent circle, he's violating Illuminati codes, and they're going to, I don't know. So, okay, back in the 80s, when Trump built Trump Towers, right? Instead of using steel, he used concrete, right? So he say, well, Ed, so what? Some people like to use steel, some people like to use concrete, right? Well, what you got to know is this. Very interesting, back in the 80s in New York City, is, first of all, it was a lot cheaper to use steel. And one reason for that is that there was only one concrete company in all of New York City. Did you know that? It was a company called Scaramex. And it was based on Staten Island, where I was from. And everyone knew that if you had a construction project in New York, it had to go through Scaramex because they were the only company that was allowed to sell cement. It was owned by Paul Castellano and some other mafia guys, too. There's even a story, too, about Roy Cohen, who was Donald Trump's lawyer. He used to allow these Castellano and Fat Tony Salerno and these guys to have meetings in his office because then it could be under attorney-client privilege. And you didn't have to worry about FBI wiretapping at the meeting. So there was one company called Scaramex that ran all the concrete in New York City. And Trump had to go through Scaramex to build this building at a higher cost than if he wanted to use steel. Okay? And that's just one example of Trump's connections with organized crime people. But one that I find to be really interesting, because I'm just that kind of guy, is his helicopter pilot, Joseph Weisselbaum. Okay? Oh, Weisselbaum, right? Mr. Trump's helicopter pilot. Now, isn't this fascinating? You're going to love this story. Okay? Seems that Joseph Weisselbaum, Trump's helicopter. By the way, I rode on one of Trump's helicopter one time too. Back we went from Staten Island, from New York to Atlantic City. Where I had a date, went to Atlantic City, and I took on the helicopter, the Trump shuttle helicopter. Okay, I don't know if I met Mr. Weisselbaum. He was on that. I didn't notice him on this helicopter pilot. But anyway, Trump's helicopter pilot, before he was Trump's pilot, he just happened to be a cocaine and marijuana trafficker. He gets busted. Right? He gets himself out of that case, He gets charges, a favorable disposition to his case, as we like to call it in the criminal defense world. So he gets out of these charges, these cocaine and marijuana trafficking charges, and he goes back to work for Trump. So he was a cocaine and marijuana smuggler before Trump, cocaine and marijuana smuggler after Trump, went back to Trump, after this. Right? So the only time, he was not involved in Trump and cocaine is during the time he got caught. The only time he wasn't involved with Trump and coke and pot was when he got caught. That little window, that period of time. The time he got caught, that's when he went into this other business. Right? But he got out of those charges. Right? Here's a guy, works for Donald Trump, gets busted on some big pot and coke charges, and he gets out of the charges, goes back to work for Trump. Right? Interesting, right? Who do you think his judge was in that case? Huh? I'll give you 3 guesses. Oh, I got to do my... I'm going to get a sound effect with the... with the Jeopardy sound effect, Who was his judge? Judge Marianne Barry. Right? But do you know what her name was before she got married? Marianne Barry? Her name was Judge Marianne Trump Barry. How do you like that? Donald Trump. Now, listen, it's a small world, guys. All right? This happens all the time. Okay? I got a guy working for me. He gets busted cocaine, and then he goes to my judge, and then he comes back to work for me. This happens every day, guys, in court. Everybody knows that, right? She actually had to recuse herself from the case. Okay? So it wasn't that blatant that, she actually dropped the charges for her brother's employee, and then when he went back to work for the brother. That would be just, oh my goodness, that would be a scandal. No, of course not. That would be a horrible scandal. No one would believe that. Of course not. There would be gambling here going on here, right? Casablanca. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's take a commercial break. Would really be nice if someone went to visit the GoFundMe and helped out. Okay. Or a donation or a membership or something like that. I put in a lot of work this week, guys. I really did. And I took a lot of abuse this week. I really did, guys. I'm going to quote the great Hillary Clinton. I'm working hard for you. And I need your support. Vic loves it when I say that. Guys, I love you more than anything. You have no idea. I love doing the show. I'm so frustrated. We could be doing so much more. We could be getting some real stuff done. I need some help. We got what's his name? William Ramsey helping out. God bless him. Thank God for this guy. Every one of these guests you hear me booking here, the guy's helping out with each one. Working behind the scenes like a dog. Plus, then I could get advice from him, too. He's a really good guy. All right, guys. Well, listen to this message here from our sponsors, and we'll be right back after this. And now, a word from our sponsors. Pacific West Bamboo, your premier source for sustainable building material. They provide construction-grade and craft-grade bamboo material for all your indoor, outdoor, and gardening needs. Contact them for event planning and display building as well. 503-839-8126. Or you go to their new website, pacificwestbamboo.com. Or you can contact them on Facebook at Pacific West Bamboo. That's 503-839-8126. Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo was our first sponsor. She's been so good to us, so please support her in return. I want to make everybody aware of our new members section at www.oppermanreport.com. You can go there and sign up for a monthly, quarterly, or yearly subscription. You can even purchase episodes one by one. You get full access to brand new original content, new guests, new uncensored interviews, my own investigations and reports, and we're going to be adding sections with documents, images, police reports, either provided by myself or by my guests, or for my own investigations, my own reports. So you can go to oppermanreport.com and you can sign up there tonight. You can start listening tonight. Strawman. I want to mention Strawman. Strawman is a band out of Toronto, Canada. They're good friends of the Opperman Report. They're a trio of guys who share the same mindset most of us here do, and they put that energy into their words and music. So check them out at strawmanmusic.com and drop them a line to let them know that you heard them here on the Opperman Report. We'll be doing an interview with Sean Duffy soon. You can get an autographed copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, by visiting my PI website, emailrevealer.com. We also offer a computer and cell phone forensics. We can recover deleted text messages to uncover infidelity. We offer asset searches, locates, email tracing, background reports, and we can even trace your spouse's email address back to internet dating websites to catch them cheating online. You can reach us at 800-572-9762, or you can email me at emailrevealer@aol.com. New World Mexican Women. Everyone loves the New World Mexican Women, and their line of fine, handcrafted, authentic Mexican jewelry of stone mosaic and abalone stone inlay. In their first book, titled New World Mexican Women, available on lulu.com, they teach you how to make this jewelry, and they have a collection of love letters to their men from their hometown that have immigrated to the United States to find work. They have also published a new book entitled Azucena to the Rodeo. It's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bull rider, and she runs away with him without telling her family. You can find the New World Mexican Women by Googling New World Mexican Women. And you can ask them about their deals on wholesaling their fine jewelry and all of the other projects that they have going on. If you'd like to have your business or website advertised here and promoted all over the world on dozens of stations every day, give us a call at 800-572-9762 or email oppermanreport@gmail.com. And now back to our show. Well, not so soon. First, we're going to talk about MichiganMushrooms.net. They offer the highest quality chaga chunks available anywhere, picked fresh from healthy live trees in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, sun-dried and quickly shipped to you. They're very proud of their long-standing reputation as trusted farmers and collectors of wild, gourmet, and medicinal mushrooms. Customer service and offering high-quality products is very important to them. And they have a strict grading system that begins in the woods, and they would rather pass up a chunk that looks bad instead of passing it off to you, the customer. Additionally, they are recognized by the state of Michigan as mushroom experts. They are certified by the Department of Agriculture to sell 20 different species of mushrooms, and proof of this certification is available upon request. That is MichiganMushrooms.net or on Facebook, Michigan Mushrooms LLC. Got a brand new sponsor, The Rodeo of Doom by Miguel La Sala. The year is 2384, and Henry Fields is a down-on-his-luck adjunct professor in the architecture department at Andreas Tangen University in Los Angeles. But he has one thing going for him that others don't. He has enough of the coveted EP14 to live to be 200, if he wants to. Not that hard. When he saves a woman for certain death with a few drops of the EP14, a corrupt government agency tries to blackmail him into selling off his supply. Just when it seems like it might be a good idea, all hell breaks loose. The Rodeo of Doom was written by Miguel La Sala and edited by Margaret A. Harrell, the author of Keep This Quiet, memoir series. Now, she was also the copy-edited Hunter S. Thompson's breakthrough book, Hell's Angels. According to Harrell, the Rodeo of Doom will grip you and pull you into the wild ride of a different reality. This is a consciously fast-paced journey into the future. Author Miguel La Sala reveals his craft by intricately weaving in fine details for his reader and keeps you anxiously anticipating what will happen next. Do not wait to read this book. There will surely be more to come from this author. The Rodeo of Doom is available on Amazon.com, and there's a link to the Rodeo of Doom in the Opperman Report bookstore. Okay, welcome back to the live portion of our Friday evening show here at the Opperman Report. Hey. Well, okay, now, everybody knows, they talk about it all the time on TV, about Trump had 5 bankruptcies through his casinos there in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, a couple of things I don't tell you. And, of course, I'm gonna tell you everything. Got no secrets here, the Opperman Report. Got no secrets. Is first of all, they never talk about Trump and his battle with Merv Griffin. Merv Griffin owned Resorts International there in Atlantic City, and he was going to buy a piece of property, and Trump started. They got into a bidding war, and they got into this big giant pissing match, and Trump lost his shirt to Merv Griffin. And this was a big news back in New York City, but you don't talk about it now. You never hear about that part of it. And at the time that Merv Griffin was eating Donald Trump's lunch every day, at the same time, Merv Griffin was chasing around Denny Terrio around the desk, sexually harassing this little homosexual dancer from Dance Fever, the guy who they based the movie, what's that movie, with John Travolta, Staying alive, Don Travolta and Staying Alive. Come on, chat room. John Travolta, Boogie Nights. No, not. What was that? Saturday Night Fever. Okay, the guy they based the movie Saturday Night Fever off of was a dance teacher named Denny Terrio. By coincidence, he happened to be the roommate of my girlfriend's brother. It's a long story. Anyway, so I got a little inside information on all this stuff here, as usual. Okay? But now, Merv Griffin has all his attention on this guy in his little tight silk pants, and he's taking Donald Trump to the restroom. Anyway. Now, so no one talks about that, and no one ever talks about this. Donald Trump's war with Steve Wynn in Atlantic City. Huh, Ed, what are you talking about? I never heard of this. Okay, Trump owns these casinos down in Atlantic City, right? And it was Merv Griffin owned a couple, and a couple little smaller ones, right? Steve Wynn knows a little bit about gambling, knows a little bit about building casinos. He was going to build a big, giant, billion-dollar casino in the Marina area, and it was going to revamp Atlantic City and bring it to the level of Las Vegas. Okay? Trump didn't like that. Now, you'd think Trump was a good businessman. He'd say, oh, boy, hey, this is great. Rising tides lift all boats. This is going to be a great improvement to the property down there. This is going to be great for everybody in Atlantic City. We can all make money together. But no, he says, no. I got to have the biggest, and I got to be the best, and I got to have the most orange skin in the whole world. So he starts doing all this stuff. These little, the allegations were that he used illegal political influence, and that he used these little sham lawsuits. Now, that's the allegation in the lawsuit between Trump and Wynn. Wynn sued Trump. But now what is not in dispute is that Trump hired these private investigators to dig up dirt on Wynn, investigated Steve Wynn's mother. Okay? Okay. This is the next president of the United States. Okay? Hiring PIs to spy on Steve Wynn's mom. Okay? But also, too, man, okay, here's what really happened. This was big stuff back in the 90s, okay? That Trump hired this guy named Bill Kish, who owns William Kish International. It was a big PI firm in Manhattan. The guy was a former FBI agent. He did polygraphs. Trump hired Bill Kish to investigate Steve Wynn and dig up Steve Wynn, investigate Steve Wynn's clients, and all this kind of stuff. Kish goes and hires this other guy from California. He was a no-name guy. Let's see. The guy's name is Rodriguez. Okay, and his company was called Pacific Empire Group. A little tiny company out west. There's nobody. Okay. So these two guys get together, and they're spying, and they're digging up dirt on Steve Wynn and Steve Wynn's clients and Steve Wynn's people over there, right? Now, what happens is Rodriguez, mid-lawsuit, switches teams. By the way, Wynn also sued both of the PIs, too, as well. But Rodriguez goes and starts working for Wynn and starts spying on Trump and reporting back to Wynn. Okay? And this isn't a rumor. This isn't about something I'm making up. Okay? This is in the court docs. There's affidavits of these guys saying they practically admit to doing this. As a matter of fact, Kish says that Rodriguez was trying to recruit him to go work for Wynn's people too. So not only did Trump get his butt kicked by Merv Griffin, while Merv Griffin has his eye on Denny Terrio's butt, he got his butt kicked by Steve Wynn as well. Really, really bad. Okay? And then there was even a thing too. And Trump had to kiss butt with Wynn too in order to come out here to Vegas and build. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been allowed to. Yeah, there's so much here. Okay. Yeah, oh my God. There was illegal wiretapping in this situation too, as well. Trump was sending guys over there to tape Wynn, but at the same time too, the same guys were taping Trump and delivering it to Wynn. This is just an incredible story, an incredible lawsuit. But ultimately, this caused the failure of Steve Wynn's project, this $1 billion project over there in Atlantic City. And also, too, because of that failure, the city of Atlantic City built a tunnel, okay? This $300 million tunnel that now went nowhere. it was, you know, Trump caused, just out of his ego. This was all ego, too, by the way. You know, there was nothing there. It was all freaking ego. So Trump cost the city of Atlanta, he bankrupted the city of Atlantic City, you know, over this kind of shenanigans. He got his butt kicked by Merv Griffin. Got his butt kicked by Steve Wynn. And then, too, when all these companies, you know, these casinos went out of business, and one time they were in this receivership, this conservatorship, where the, you know, the bankruptcy, what's that called? The bankruptcy, whatever. The guy who's in charge of the bankruptcy, it puts you like an allowance. He had Trump on an allowance, okay? And all of the vendors got ripped off. And by the way, too, Trump talks about how, I took one loan from my dad for $1 million, right? And that's how I started my real estate empire. And, you know, there's other accounts that was up to $400 million. But at the time, Trump admitted that, that his dad would go there to the casino and buy $1 million worth of chips to help fund the casinos and keep them alive. Okay? Also, too, I'm digging up some stuff, too. Probably next week I'll get back to you. That Trump's dad was high school friends with Abe Beame, with Mayor Abe Beame in New York City. And that was one of the ways that he got, that's how Trump got, talking about Trump had to pay people off and get all these deals. It was his dad's deals that got him those deals. All right. Yeah, I know. None of it comes out. I don't know. I'm available. Anybody wants to interview me about it, I'm available to talk about this stuff. Because there's a ton more. You know, but real quick, though, I want to get to another topic. Because one of the reasons I call the show Little Bird Told Me is not just because of the Bernie Sanders Bertie Sanders, but because, too, no matter what I tell you, you know, I was going to call this show something like YouTube Sucks, or stop sending me YouTube videos. I don't want to hear them, guys. You know, I bury myself, you know, reading these court docs, and then someone's going to send me a YouTube video. Oh, Ed, the Illuminati wants to kill Trump. It's, you know. So that brings up, there's an article floating around the internet about how Jared Lee Loughner, this is the guy who shot Gabby Giffords, right? And there's an article going around YouTube, on Facebook, everybody's posting it, that Jared Lee Loughner is suing Gabrielle Giffords. And he's saying that there's a chip in his brain that made him shoot Gabrielle Giffords. This is proof. Now we got the evidence. It's finally, right? Everybody's reposting this thing and commenting on it. Oh, we told you so. Well, everyone said, oh, this is some kind of fake shooting. It's a government PSYOP operation and a MK Ultra, all the code words, all the little stuff people love to talk about, right? So, okay, you know me. I'm a silly goose, right? So what I do is I go, and I knew this case was filed in Arizona. By the way, Monday morning at the federal courthouse in Tucson at 2 o'clock Monday afternoon, there's going to be a rally over there protesting the illegal activities that went on in this Arizona election last week, that Hillary camp. So get down there to the federal courthouse. I think it's Congress Street, it's called, down there in Arizona. And so you get down there at 2 o'clock, there's going to be a big rally. So anyway, I knew this case was filed in Arizona, so I go looking for it, right? I find the case number. And I'm going to go on Pacers, and try and purchase the stuff. I can't afford to do it. So I Google the case number and I find the case. The case is online. You can find it. So you can read Gerald E. Loeffner's lawsuit that he files himself. Okay, this one that's the smoking gun. Okay? All right, I'll read it to you. Violation of civil rights. Comes now the plaintiff moves this honorable court under 42 U.S.C. 1983 to issue an order for named defendants in this lawsuit to respond. I seek $25 million in punitive damages from defendant Gabrielle Giffords for causing me emotion and psychological distress. This court has subject matter jurisdiction under 28 U.S.C. 111331 because I was illegally arrested and prosecuted in Arizona. Here's the complaint, and this is what he wrote. Okay. My incarceration is illegal. I am actually innocent. I was framed with a capital F. I am a victim of Project MK Ultra. The government put a chip in my head to control my mind. The zeitgeist is part of New World Order to create false flag attacks to justify New World Order. Gabby Giffords is in the Illuminati, and I have evidence of this with her dancing at Bohemian Grove. Bohemian's a small letter and Grove is a capital letter. Dancing at Bohemian Grove with the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and Jewish entities. Okay. By the way, when I read this, okay, this reminds me, I used to work at another station, okay, a long time ago, and I quit that station when the owner got drunk. This is the same stuff I would get during the show. This is the kind of text messages I would get in my Skype demanding that I read this stuff word for word. The same thing with these typos and this crazy stuff. It would get this stuff with capital letters in the middle of a word. Made no sense. You'd read the stuff and you'd see a word, and in the middle of the word there was the number 6. And you'd say, well, what kind of typo was that? How do you get the number 6 in the middle? You look on a keyboard, they don't even line up. And then I'd say, you want me to read this word for word? Yes, read it just the way I wrote it. And then you'd read this crazy rambling. I was handpicked illegally to be a sleeper assassin. My head, capital letters, my head is full of chips, and this evil empire government is controlling me within and outside of my period. The defendants took my medications and forced me strapped in the chair to be subjected to microwave testing. The defendants spray chemtrails into the skies above me, which is getting me sick and delusional. Gabby Giffords' husband plants illegal spy equipment into the skies to spy on American lives for the NSA's illegal, all capitals, roving wiretap porngram under G.W. Bush's orders. A, comma, I am not getting proper food in prison. No peppers, steaks, fruits, juices. Gabby Gifford never got shot. It was all an act. Giffords watches Ronald Reagan movies and pretended she was hit. Secretary of State Brady shot Giffords, and Frank Giffords is brain dead because of the defendant's mind control. I am being waterboarded every day by NSA, CIA, ATF on defendants' direct orders. Gabby Giffords is part of a global plot to take away our civil liberties. She infiltrated the Cliven Bundy Ranch and set that poor man up. Giffords used government pensions and life insurance to finance the 2 San Bernardino shooters. My water has fluoride that defendants plant parasites in my water and feed me aspartame by Monsanto. Then he writes, please, with a small p in all capital, the rest is all caps. Please help me. I seek immediate release. Okay. From prison because I am innocent. My attorney, Judy, was ineffective. She is a global spy agent who forced me to plead guilty, and she framed Tsarnaev. I get no NPR in prison, no C-SPAN. The sentence violates my 8th Amendment rights for cruel and unusual punishment. Relief. I seek $25 million in punitive damages from defendant Giffords. My civil and all constitutional rights were violated. I am suffering emotion distress from defendants. I seek immediate release from prison due to my actual innocence. Now, okay, that's what the guy wrote. Okay, now we got 2 minutes left here. Now listen, guys, okay. First of all, people before they go posting these articles about how this guy got chips in his brain, they should at least read the complaint. Now, he wrote that himself, obviously. Now, if all these people are out there who can prove that this Gabby Giffords thing was a hoax or whatever, fine, maybe that's possible, okay? Why don't you contact? Obviously, Loeffner, he's looking for help. He's looking for representation. He needs help writing this thing, doesn't he? He can't write it himself. He's incapable of doing it. He's looking for legal assistance. Help him if you believe all this stuff. You know? Okay. Show's over. Go back to your homes. Hey, guys. All right, listen. Don't forget the GoFundMe/Opperman Report. The member section, we'll have that new show up there with Greg Jones. I really enjoyed doing that show. Got a whole bunch of big stuff coming up. We have a show about music and mind control. I'm going to be taping on Monday. I'm doing a show about Haiti and the Clintons overthrowing the government of Haiti. We have Tony Ortega coming up. A whole bunch of stuff that William Ramsey's putting together for me that I can't even keep track of. We're doing a show about Mayatra. And Krem, and all that stuff like that, and the Antichrist. That's going to be an interesting thing we're putting together for you. So we've got a lot of stuff we're working on. Long term, I'm not quite sure this is the way we need to continue doing this. Okay, I want to get you a lot of information. I think we need to be a little bit more sober about it, a little bit more reserved and more produced, and a little bit more thoughtful and like documentary films or maybe produced radio shows, something like that. Because this thing where I just put a show together every week and then I just get these responses, that are just so disheartening. And I understand when the audience gets bigger and bigger and bigger, these fringe people, there's more of them. But it's overwhelming. So anyway, yeah, that's the guy. Mayatra's they think he's Maitreya. I always call it Mayatra, but it's Maitreya. Look it up. You don't want to get too into it, though, because a lot of people think he's the Antichrist. And I believe, too, he's the Antichrist as well, because the guy who's bringing him in is definitely into all kinds of weirdo stuff. All right, guys, good night. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. American Freedom Radio and People's Internet Radio, simulcast, wakeradio.us, and Shaz's Radio. And, of course, all the other stuff, all the many places you can listen to the Opera Report. God bless you all. Good night.
Breaking news from the stadium tonight as an anonymous fan foot the bill for 55,000 hot dogs, bringing that sweet tubed meat to everyone in attendance.
Free dogs! Yeah!
55,000 hot dogs? What does that even cost?
While the identity of this Frankfurter philanthropist remains anonymous, their all-beefy generosity will go down in history.
The new Mega Millions. More to win means more to give. How you spend it is up to you.
Yeah!
For game odds and details, visit SCEducationLottery.com.